Special meeting of the South Burlington School Board to order on Wednesday, February 12th, 2025 at 6:07 p.m. Agenda item 2 is comments from the public. And so I just want to be clear right now, public comment is for anything that is not on the agenda. And tonight we are talking about budget information. So any budget related questions, please save them for later in the meeting. And right now is just for anything not budget related in terms of public comment. Am I missing any framing that the board feels is important? Now is the time. Please come up to the podium, state your name for the record. We have, how much time did we leave for this part of public comment?
I think till 6:30, so about a half hour and seconds.
Okay. Please come up to, in the room, please come up to the podium, state your name for the record.
My name is Allison Mano. I live in South Burlington. Thank you for the opportunity to be heard. I would like to speak on 2 topics. I timed this. I am gonna come in real close to 3 minutes. I am disappointed with the direction the high school intends to take with regards to embedded honors, and I hope my feedback tonight will be helpful. I think we are all after the same result here, which is, as our mission states, a commitment to excellence in education. You have heard overwhelming opposition to the decision to fold Honors American Studies into an honors embedded class from students, parents, and other taxpayers. Violet, as the superintendent, it is you who under section G3 of instruction in the policy handbook is responsible for the development, coordination, and evaluation of the curriculum. The section states that the superintendent shall ensure that the curriculum is consistent with the school district mission as approved by the board. The mission being excellence in education and challenging learning environments, to paraphrase. I ask you to reconsider this decision, and please know that I would see this as a sign of strength from the leadership team, and I think many others would agree. We've heard from many different stakeholders that embedding honors into this coursework will lessen the challenge of the standalone honors learning environment and will detract from the community commitment to excellence in education. I want to be a positive mouthpiece for South Burlington. I know our teachers are the best, the absolute best, underscore. Let's not make their jobs harder. We know that there's a national teacher shortage. We know that there are behavior issues that are tougher than ever, and it's unreasonable for anyone to suggest that managing a classroom this broad will not make our teachers' jobs significantly harder, which will ultimately impact our students. Reconsidering this decision is an opportunity to show this community that there is a feedback loop and that our voices do matter. Second topic, I've listened to the questions and feedback about renewing Violet's contract and the significant jump in salary since she was hired. I have held back from talking because this is a personal subject, yet it is one with public interest. And I do appreciate the tremendous hours and volume of work that go into the superintendent role. However, I feel this is another moment to show good faith to this community and opt out of this raise. This is something prior superintendents have done during hard times. The optics are not good when you're cutting meaningful positions, most meaningfully to me, the instructional coaches who are responsible for helping teachers to implement new curriculum that has just been rolled out painstakingly, and also the elimination of JV sports and community events such as night games at the high school, which I just learned may not be the case anymore. I will be voting to pass the budget because I do believe anything beyond these cuts will be damaging. But Violet, I urge you to reconsider accepting your raise, not forever, but for now. I would also like to see the school board's recommendation on the superintendent's goals for the upcoming year. A lot has been said about the monitoring process, and you are doing the superintendent a disservice if you are not soliciting feedback from her direct reports and presenting them to her in an anonymized format that calls out common themes. This is just standard process. I understand that we have a different governing body here. I would be happy to share more with you on this process. I have personal experience with this, if that would be helpful and of interest. As a school board, we elected you to hold the superintendent accountable to meeting the mission of our district, providing direct and actionable feedback on what their superintendent does well and what she needs to do to make our district all that it can be is the single most important work of a governing board. Thank you for your time.
Any other non-budget related
Hello, I am Brittany Almaselki, and I am the mother of 3 kids in the district. One who is going to high school next year. And I'm here to talk about the academic rigor that Violet, you've talked about many, many times. You say you're here for academic rigor. Yet in good conscience, or how in good conscience can you then decrease specifically the Honors American, but all honors classes across the board at the high school? You speak to academic excellence, but I don't see the path you're laying for the students. You say that the AP classes and the advanced classes are being filled. They are being filled, but when you talk to the students in those classes, you find out that they're coming from different districts, or they came from Rice, or they're taking online courses, and that's what I'm here to address specifically. What's happening with your equity that you speak of? I think what you mean is equality. You're making everything just the same for everybody, when this equity you're doing is causing a bigger gap. You're causing the kids who, this is gonna happen. You're causing the kids who are smart and whose parents don't have the resources to fall. And people who have the resources are going up, they're stepping up, they're seeing this need. They're filling it with online courses, they're filling it with tutoring. They're doing everything they can. And I am one of those people now who are available to do that, but when I was in high school, I would have been one of the ones who were left behind. I would have been the ones who couldn't afford to do anything. And it really hurts to see these children. And I know they have promise and they do not have opportunity. And it's really disheartening. And I'm speaking for them because they don't have people to do it for them.
The other non-budget related comment.
Hi, my name is Jessica Hayes Lucas, and I have a son in the 6th grade, and I also have a son who's a freshman. And I want to echo, I forgot your name, I'm sorry, Brittany.
Oh, sorry, or Allison.
Yeah,
Allison, sorry.
Well, it was along the same line, comment about the Honors American class. My son is in the Honors American class. He's found it to be one of the places where he can really engage and lean in and learn and be challenged. And was so sad to hear that class might be changed. And that the honors component of it would be folded into a different kind of curriculum. He would love to take more AP classes as a sophomore. He would have really loved that. He would have loved more challenging classes. So this is the one that he's been able to hang his hat on this year. And I'd really like to echo the comments to try to keep that class as it is. Thank you.
Erin Sutherland. I too am here for the Honors American, like I've discussed at Donuts and Discussions. I think that this course has been tremendously challenging for my sophomore with dyslexia, but he is taking it and we are trucking along and it was available to him. I think that knowing that everybody in the school may like to take a course that is co-taught and meets every day, I understand that that's kind of the driving force behind wanting to maybe pull back on the honors component of this, and I think that's not okay. I think if that's really the case, then we need to find a way to offer a co-taught American class in a similar model that's not honors, and then to maintain what we've had for 22 years with extreme success and kids who are just flourishing and learning so much. We're just getting a D in the class and we're loving it, and I'm A-okay with that. Because it's the first class that he's ever taken in middle school or high school that has actually pushed him. And he has teachers there to catch him. And that is why we want to be the best, because we have that in place. And so if it's because everybody needs a chance to have a co-taught class, this is not the way to get to that. We still need to have those classes that challenge kids, because I'm looking at what we're doing. We're rolling that out at Tuttle right now. It's embarrassing. my son in 6th grade and my daughter in 8th grade have choices, you can learn all 50 states or you can learn 25. Well, guess what my kids are doing, the 25? That's a drag. I get that we're trying to do differentiated instruction. That's really not how differentiated instruction was intended to be, a choice. So we need to get back, take a pause and look at what we are putting forth to our students because we want them to take the challenge. We want a 10th grader in the class with special needs and doing the best that they can. Those teachers have never turned a student away. They offer office hours just like we promised. You have the ability to be there. The bus is there at 8:30, so office hours is running. It's not an equity issue in that regard. I really just hope we consider a pause and maintain our excellence because we are not doing that if we're taking away those honors classes. Yep.
Hi, my name is Susan McLennan. I have lived in South Burlington for 24 years. I have 2 teens, one who graduated from SB last year and one who's in grade 10, and I have never been to a school board meeting before. I have definitely never spoken at a school board meeting before. Our mission here is supposed to be excellence in education, and removing leveled classes goes squarely against this mission. The decision to move to embedded honors classes does not promote equity. Honors American Studies, as an example, is open to all students. And the FAQ from the high school that says that there will be more access to these classes, that makes no sense. It's already open to all students. There are 95 kids in this class. They have not ever turned someone away from this class. Changing to an embedded model doesn't give the kids greater access to this class or to other honors classes. All students can already sign up. Mark McFadden is one of those legendary teachers whose students will remember for their entire lives. This is not entirely about Honors American or entirely about Mr. McFadden, but it's about the level of academic rigor in this high school, which is deteriorating. I grew up in a very small town in Canada with many different socioeconomic groups. And our school had multiple levels of each of the core classes. And academics excellence stemmed from those public schools in my family and in many families of many different socioeconomic levels. South Burlington must continue its proud tradition, and it must not fold its challenging classes into mediocrity in the name of equity. My children will be finished with Honors American and any other honors classes pretty soon, but I am here for the academic future of my neighbors and for the other children of South Burlington. And I think it is a terrible decision to move to embedded honors classes. Thank you.
Any other public comment from the room? Could we unmute Lauren McBride, please?
Hi there, good evening. Members of the school board, my name is Lauren McBride and I'm a parent of 2 students in the district. First, I want to thank you for opening this meeting up and having public comment and also taking time to answer questions from the community regarding the budget. This is an important step and I want to acknowledge the effort I want to acknowledge your effort to engage. However, I have to be honest. This step comes really late in the process, particularly regarding critical decisions that have already been made. True engagement means inviting the community into the process before decisions are finalized, not after. While I appreciate the intent, I still remain dubious. Emails raising concerns, some dating back to December, continue to remain unanswered. If outreach is met with silence, it signals that public input is not valued. Engagement is not only meaningful if it leads to action, not just explanations for past decisions. I urge you to remain curious. The work of leadership isn't about defending decisions. It's about continually questioning whether they are serving our students, staff, and community in the best way possible. Trust is built through action, and I hope to see more than just acknowledgement. We really hope to see follow through. Thank you.
which is our FY 26 budget communication. So, Nick, could you pass that, please?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to invite some members of our administrative team to come and join us at the front for the conversation. And come on up. We might have to add a couple more chairs. I'll bring some over.
They could drive. We don't. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we just want to like.
You guys want to- I just want to do some framing of how we're hoping to organize the meeting this evening. So we've broken down the different budget topics. Nick, do you mind going to the next slide? Into separate parts, and we've allotted time for board discussion and superintendent presentation in each part, and the topics are listed for each part. And then at the end, comments related to topics listed here, we've allotted time for, and then we'll need to move on to our next part of the meeting. So if you're here for something here, you'll be able to make your comment about this, or hopefully get your information or questions answered now. And then we'll move on to the next. We have 3 parts that we've broken everything down into this evening. And at the beginning of each, we'll have this title slide where you can see the topics that we'll be covering.
Could we start by introducing the team?
Yes.
So we, we worked really hard to develop this budget in partnership, and we have a team here to just share a discussion tonight and make sure that folks have all the information that they need. So I'd like to welcome members of the team. If you'd kindly just say your name and your role and what school, so that folks know who you are and what you do.
Hi, good evening. I'm Lucy McDonald. I'm the principal with Central School.
Hi, I'm Tim Jarvis. I'm the Senior Director of Finance in the central office, and I have 2 children who are in 9th grade at the high school.
Hi, I'm Monica Derosher. I am the Director of Diversity at the Emotional Learning. Good evening, Suzanne Growling, Principal, Tuttle Middle School.
There, Olivia Kane, the principal at Orchard School.
Mike Jabor, Director of Student Activities for the high school and middle school.
Kristen Romick, the Executive Director of Educational Support System.
Thanks for being here. Appreciate the conversation. And please feel free to, jump in at any time if you want to, speak to any of these pieces. Please feel free to jump in. We want this to be conversational and helpful. And you all have, a tremendous amount of expertise, and we want to make sure we're sharing with the community.
I would also like to encourage my fellow board members if at any point I'm trying to make sure that I wasn't here when this meeting was conceived, and if I'm missing a part that you feel is important, please jump in. Thank you. Okay. Do you want to start? What do you want us to start?
So my understanding was the board was going to ask questions and then the team was going to address those. I'm happy to present or start talking through questions if that's your preference.
So why don't we kind of, what was your thought?
Do we want to start with things that we've had much public comment?
I think that'd
about-
be a great starting place. Yes,
Okay.
thank you, Karen.
Yes.
Yeah.
So would you like to address the pre-K changes?
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Okay.
Absolutely. So we can address this as a team. Kristen is looking ready to roll here. Do you want to start? And I'm happy to talk as well.
Absolutely. So I think there's been, a lot of questions. Alyssa is here with me as well, as part of the elementary, team who can talk a little bit about this. I think that part of what's been really challenging is that across the board, we've had to make, decisions pre-K through 12 that are really, really challenging. And folks have felt like they haven't been involved in the decision making. From an administrative standpoint, we needed to make decisions early on. So in regards to pre-K, we looked at, how to, what our decisions were going to be in regards to, cutting positions. Beth Peliquin, who is our associate director, the administrative team. Olivia, I forgot about you, sorry about that. Olivia, Lissa, Holly Ruel, and I all met together to talk about what our pre-K currently looks like. We talked about what pre-Ks look like in other districts, and in conjunction with us as a team, made some really hard decisions about cutting 2 classroom teachers. The question that continues to come up is, what is pre-K going to look like? And that's something that we're continuing to work on. We know that we need to work within the parameters of ensuring that we have the support that's needed. I know that our pre-K teachers are really concerned about how the restructuring, and we've called it restructuring because that's exactly what we need to do. In order to think about how we're going to best support our youngest learners, we're going to have to think about this from a different perspective. And so we've been working on that as an administrative team, and we're going to continue to work on that in order to support our youngest. I don't know if Olivia, you or Lisa have anything more you want to add to that, or if there's any more specific questions.
You have specific questions. I think, Kristen, you gave us a good overview.
Yeah.
I can provide a little more information from a standpoint of looking at the data. So I want to thank, first of all, our elementary principals, Olivia, Lissa, Holly, and our pre-K associate director, Beth Peliquin, and Kristen for, putting this together and, bringing it forward for the budget. I know they put a tremendous amount of work into this. I wanted to provide some data to the community that was used to develop this decision. Currently, right now, in classroom 1, we have 1 classroom teacher, 1 early childhood special educator, 1 speech and language pathologist, and 1 paraeducator. We've got 2 sessions. We have 12 students in the first session, which is in the morning, and 15 in the PM. The licensing requirements require 1 staff member to every 10 students. However, when there are students with increased needs, that ratio changes, and the state gives the flexibility for that to be supported by multiple staff members and in, to multiple students. So this classroom 1 has those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 adults for 12 kids in the morning and for 15 kids in the afternoon. Classroom 2 has 1 classroom teacher, 1 early childhood special educator, 1 speech language pathologist, and 1 paraeducator. Those 4 staff members support 9 students for the morning section and 11 students for the afternoon section. Again, the licensing requirements is 1 staff member for every 10 students. And when there are additional needs, there can be multiple staff members supporting multiple students. Classroom 3 has 1 classroom teacher, 1 early childhood special educator, 1 speech and language pathologist, and 1 paraeducator. The morning section has 13 students. The afternoon has 12 students. And we do still have openings in our pre-K classrooms.
there is currently availability. And the licensing requirements are from the Vermont Child Care Licensing Requirements, section 6.2, that's page 84. I did link this information in some board backup documentation. So all of these questions tonight, we're going to provide some information for folks to review so that you can see that, and we'll post these in the board backup materials. So I wanted to just provide that information here on actual hard numbers of enrollment, which I know the team looked at, and the team also looked at those licensing requirements. So I wanted to make sure that information was provided to the board and the community as well.
Thanks, Violet. I appreciate that. I was thinking of the general overview at this point. And again, I think the other piece that, you know, in particular, some of our pre-K teachers have talked about is that we do have students with varying needs. And so that 1 to 10 is for students, for typically developing students. And so we do need to ensure that we're looking at our students across the board and what that looks like. But those are our hard numbers. That's the information that we have. And we're going to look at how we can best support our students.
So I just have a couple of, I guess, more specific questions. So we're giving up 2 pre-K teachers. Did they come out of like one out of section 1, one out of section 2, or how did that work?
Yeah, it's not as easy, Tim, to look at it in that respect. So the restructuring of pre-K is really what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to restructure that. So pre-K teachers, licensed pre-K teachers can also be special educators in the classroom, and they can teach as well. And so how we look at the configurations of what next year will look like is part of that conversation that we're having. That's how we're developing it. So it's not as easy to say, is it that classroom teacher and that classroom teacher? It's that, you know, we have 3 classroom teachers currently. We have 3 classrooms. We have an outreach program. So we are losing 2 classroom teachers, 2 fantastic classroom teachers. So we have to restructure. Again, special educators can act in that role. I don't know if that clarifies.
Yeah, so I'm just curious, when you say special educators can act in the role of the teacher, do you mean at that point you'd have a special educator acting as both the special educator and the teacher, so you'd have just one body or 2 roles?
Potentially, but it also depends on how the decisions that we make in regards to what it's going to look like and how we're going to support our students. And so I'm not trying to not provide you with the information. We haven't, until we had the plan that the budget that we're working with. And now we're working with what's the best configuration for our students? Where's the best place to house our students? What can this all look like? Kind of the sky's the limit, and we're trying to look at, with what we have, how can we do this? And when I say the sky's the limit, it's within losing 2 classroom teachers. So really important to recognize that, and to recognize that that's a significant loss. And we're looking at ways that we can continue to meet our students' needs. So it may not be 3 classrooms the way it's looked this school year. So for me to lay that out, once we have more plans, I can lay that out for you. And again, we're working on it tomorrow. We've got plans. I just don't have it all for you right now.
You know, and I was just curious.
Yeah.
Because when you it sounded like that could be the case. And so when you say we will be working on the plans, I assume the voice of the pre-K teachers themselves and these folks are going to be in this.
So,
Or how does?
yeah, and I think so we've met, so Lisa, Olivia, Beth, myself, Holly, we met with the pre-K team maybe last week. Beth Peliquin meets regularly with the pre-K team on Wednesdays, and is getting their input. And in full transparency, we're getting input, and the decisions may not be the decisions that that everybody wants. And so that's been a conversation piece as well. Yeah, I don't.
Imagine it'll be somewhat dictated by enrollment too, like.
We have a pretty good idea of students, in particular, students who are on individualized educational plans. We have a good estimate of those students. We also have a good understanding of their need. And so when our pre-K teachers are advocating, that's why they're advocating for that. And we also need to work within a budget of our pre-K through 12 program. And so in looking at this, those are the decisions that we're working with. We also have a really substantial outreach with 32 students who are in our outreach program, and we have a special educator and a SLP who work. With 32 off the top of my head. So I don't quote me on that. So we're also serving students within our programs outside of our school.
I want to add to a couple of pieces of information. What was I going to say now? I'm losing my train of thought. I was listening deeply to you, Kristen. On structure and amount of classroom time. So the morning session, there's 2 sessions a day. They're 2.5 hours each, and there is no classes on Fridays. So I wanted to make sure
Wednesday.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Wednesday over. Yeah. So I wanted to share that information so folks know about the structure and the timing of the support. I'll share one more piece of information as we talk about, we use the data to pop up the budget expenditures. The team in their proposal did provide information. There was an evaluation. So not only, using these standards, which talk about staffing requirements, they looked at students' individualized education plans and the staffing required to support the students who are enrolled in the class. We will always attend to those. That's important. And there was an evaluation performed of our area districts and their pre-K programs and their staffing as well. Any other information the board wants to hear regarding pre-K?
That's good. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
No, that was helpful.
What's next?
So
Wait, we're not on part 2 yet, right?
oh, we're not. I'm looking at the wrong slide. I'm sorry.
Anything
Jump
else
ahead.
for these topics?
I just one question here, and this is sort of a general question, I guess, for Violet. So we have district office changes here, and this question would probably come up in any part, but there's been a lot of concern from the community and insistence that we talk about administrative positions first, right? So I'm wondering if we can clarify what's an actual administrative position versus something that's district-wide versus something that's just, excuse me, central office, because
Sure.
I think it's important that we clarify that distinction.
Happy to do that. Yeah, so the district has 3 groups of unionized members. The administrators who are the principals, assistant principals, and the athletics director are part of a union. That collective bargaining agreement has language, I think it's 9.2 is the section, which refers to the fact that this administrative bargaining team cannot be reduced unless there is a budget fail. It specifies that numbers of days cannot be reduced as well. So those are, that is some contractual information related to that team of our senior leadership team. We have central office administrators, and those administrators are not unionized. It is Monica DeRosiers, Director of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, Anti-Racism, Social Emotional Learning, Kristen Romick, Executive Director of Education Support Systems, Judy Valancourt, Executive Director of Learning, and myself. The Vermont Labor Board prohibits those team members from being unionized because of our access to financial information. And the central office reductions that are proposed in the budget is the pre-K director, which is a reduction of days. That's a grant-funded position through the funding source IDEA B, with the idea that we would reallocate funding. Again, it's a reduction of 260 days to 220. 220 is important to take note of because the classroom days are the school calendar is 189 student days. Well, 180 depends on the snow days. We have 189 teacher work days. So to give you that as a marker so that you can understand that this person will be here for the school year plus days. The required number of school days is 175. We are reducing in the business office, a business office consultant. We are reducing one business office staff member, a transportation coordinator, leadership role, a groundskeeper role, another district position. We are reducing the instructional technology educator. This is a district role, which is an instructional coaching role, who supports technology integration. We're reducing 3 instructional coaches. These are district employees. However, they very much have are, in their school-based employees. Our multilingual teachers are also considered district employees because they're to be allocated based on LEDA test results, right? So we look at data. Monica DeRosiers is a running spreadsheet where she looks at, for instance, LEDA test scores, which is a multilingual assessment regarding proficiency in numerous factors from reading, writing, speaking, listening. And so we staff based on that. Coaching has been the same. Last year, the last few years, we reduced instructional coaching at our high school. Of course, they do have their curriculum supervisor, area supervisor model still. There is language in the teachers' collective bargaining agreement that is tied to the curriculum area supervisor model. That language in the collective bargaining agreement states that curriculum area supervisors will teach for no more than 40%, 60% of their day, and they will have each day 40% allocated to curriculum area supervisor responsibilities. They also, in the collective bargaining agreement, receive an additional 8.5% of their salary as a stipend on top of their salary to perform that both teacher leadership and instructional support roles. With instructional coaches at the elementary level and the instructional technology educator, there is not language in the collective bargaining agreement for teachers, which requires them to be a part of the role. Again, as we look at trends of other districts in our area who are making reductions, and we're hearing calls for positions who are not classroom teachers, we are forced to evaluate these. Our elementary teams did bring this forward as a proposed recommendation based on the target numbers to achieve our tax rate. The instructional technology education team was 3 last year, and we reduced that to 1 this year. Again, I'm illustrating these are district roles, so the district ITE staff member now supports all of our 5 schools and is not singly based in 1 building. So the instructional coaching model is the same, where they can be directed based on need. Instructional coaching is a role that really relies on relationships and knowledge of specific buildings. We have wonderful instructional coaches, and they have built really strong relationships with the staff that they work alongside in their buildings. If we were to reduce to say 1 instructional coach, It would be one instructional coach who's been in one building for a very long time, having to rebuild relationships district-wide. We know with the coaching model that we have implemented, which is the gym night coaching model, it is not an effective way of doing this because there would be that inability to, first of all, develop relationships. But more importantly, there's the operational and logistics challenge of supporting teachers who are commonly available during their planning times. And in all of our elementary schools, these are all right in those same chunks, right? Itinerants are offered at certain times of day. That's when teachers have availability during the day to work with coaches. So logistically, we would not be able to provide instructional coaching support during those times. Other district reductions, we have a PBIS coordinator for the district level who is based at Gertrude Chamberlain. This 0.2 FTE came into play during COVID. It was added to provide to meet requirements of distancing and staffing during COVID. We rolled this 0.2 FTE into the budget. And it was originally slated in the middle school, but we couldn't make the Chamberlain and middle school schedule work with that 0.2. Obviously, the structure at the middle school and our elementary buildings is significantly different. The person who is in this role has a stipend for a PBIS site-based stipend at Chamberlain. As there is someone at the other two elementary schools who also are site-based PBIS coordinators who are stipended. All three of those schools will continue to have stipended PBIS support. PBIS is our elementary behavior system. It stands for Positive Behaviors and Intervention Systems. And what we are removing is strictly the district coordination piece. Those wonderful professionals work collaboratively together and each support their building with similar strategies that are well supported by PBIS statewide. And finally, there is a district change in the school-based clerical assistants. We currently have 2.5 FTEs. And we will be condensing that down to 1. Some folks have said, hey, Violet, why are we adding these? So in our board presentations where we've noted these as adds, but there's also, it's a net reduction of 1.5. So I wanted to provide that clarification. These staff will be supported through the supervision and evaluation of our Executive Director of Education Support Systems. And again, that one role will support district-wide what is now the work of 2.5 FTEs. So what I just sought to do was provide clarification on district-based reductions, why they're district positions, and some information on some of the collective bargaining reasons and that certain decisions were made. If I can provide further clarification, let me know.
So can I I'd like to just summarize really quickly. So when we talk about administration, we have our unionized administration under the CBA, right? And those are the principals, assistant principals, athletics director. We have non-unionized administrators, you and a couple of others who by law can't be unionized. We then have our central office staff, right? And then we have our district-based roles. Then that's instructional coaches, multilingual. They're kind of considered administrative, I think what I'm trying to clarify is when we say admin, these district-based roles aren't necessarily admin, right? Or
the only administrators in the district is the central office administrators, me, special ed director, curriculum director, and diversity, equity, inclusion, anti-racism, SEL director. So those 4. And then there are the 11 principals, assistant principals, athletics director. There is district directors, for instance, Tim Jarvis, our senior director of finance. Tim is a member of the non-union staff group, and he does not hold an administrative license. You can put our senior director of HR in that same role, not on the administrative side. These are, you know, backbone positions that prop up the work of the organization and are not on the ed side. So you're gonna see the licensed administrators all on the educational side. The other directors we have an IT director, our Jean Marie Clark, our operations director. And again, those folks are maintaining the fiscal, clerical, operational sides of the district, where the licensed folks are education.
And then I guess my final point is we also have teachers, and it sounds like we have the CAS positions, and they fill somewhat of a quasi administrative role in there for some of their particular duties. Is that true?
The CAS are high school staff, and they assist with curriculum leadership, curriculum development, looking at things like pacing, common assessments, planning, evaluation of student data. They make recommendations on programmatic changes such as Honors American, right? Or whatever else it might be. They also conduct evaluations of teachers who are not new teachers. And they share that information with high school building administrators who then complete evaluations. They are, their curriculum area supervisors are both teacher leaders and curriculum, instructional leaders.
Thank you very much.
It's almost like a department head model, only far more support than a traditional department head. And certainly they have 40% of each day to provide that ongoing support to the departments.
Thank you.
And the instructional coaches are not supervisory. Those are teacher
Those
positions.
are teacher positions. Okay, I think that's important.
Yes, they're not supervisory, and they do not provide input on any other teacher's evaluations. In fact, our gym night coaching model is really clear that they're not evaluative in any way, and they do not provide information to any administration on teacher performance.
Right, thank you. And I just wanted clarification, Riley, because again, we get a lot of questions about that, and you know, it's about talking about admin and non-student facing positions. So I just wanted to make sure that the community was aware of these distinctions. So when we talk about admin, we're talking about a very specific thing.
Yeah, I'm happy to provide this clarification and to speak to the issue too. I know that you know, we have a lot of positions and there's different groups and different CBAs. I certainly appreciate the opportunity to talk through this systematically.
How are we doing on time?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I've consumed quite a bit of time. I apologize.
I think it's all really good information.
Probably a public question.
Okay, well, so is there any like last board questions about these topics before we move to public comment for 10 minutes on these topics? All right, that's the idea.
Yeah, I'm all set. Thank you.
Because our team is here, would it be possible to move through all three sections and then do public comment at the end? Just because it would require a significant amount of shifting. Apologies for the request and the change. I just think logistically it would be a lot of back and forth.
No, I think that's
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you.
okay. So then just to clarify, we're gonna do all of the public comment. We'll leave about 30 minutes at the end of the meeting for public comment on all topics. We move to the next slide. Please. Sure. I mean. I'm gonna start and see out of this was the. Well, is there? Timothy or Chelsea, do you review? Have something here that you have a question?
This is my first time seeing the groups here. I've got, my questions are sort of organized a little bit differently.
Yeah.
I guess my question is, and this one is kind of near and dear to my heart. I look at the 9th grade dean position and having managed the Richmond Center years ago, we ended up with a lot of 9th graders for help in that room. And I think this idea was floated even 30 years ago. I'm wondering, this is hard to see go, and I understand, are there any plans in place to potentially support ninth graders in particular? Or are we just kind of losing that support at this point?
Great question. So we don't have, anyone from the high school here, but, if anyone on the panel wants to speak to this, feel free to jump in. What's that? Is JC on?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Fantastic. JC, do you wanna, can you hear me okay? Wait a minute.
I can you hear me?
Yes, thank you so much for being here. So, folks, we've
Great.
got, acting principal, Mr. Craig on the call. Thank you so much for being here, and, we have a question, regarding the, loss of our ninth grade dean position.
Yep. Sorry I'm not there in person. It's like Tim suggested, it's a pretty significant reduction in our support for not just ninth graders, but students who work with our current ninth grade dean, develop a pretty long lasting relationship with her. And so it's going to be a reduction that's going to be felt pretty hard throughout the school. In terms of next steps, it will be taking her responsibilities and splitting it between the two assistant principals, and also looking at our school counseling team and our school-based clinicians to help support students in their transition from middle school to high school. And then with the added responsibilities on the assistant principals, that will have a trickle down effect into some of the things that they are able to do and support in terms of social emotional learning and behavior management.
Are we aware, do other districts have a ninth grade dean in place?
Yeah, it's a position that is certainly in other districts, around the state. And Suzanne, I don't want to put you on the
Yeah.
spot.
That I didn't have ninth grade, a specific ninth grade.
At Essex Westward. Any other folks want to chime in?
I can,
Burlington High School does as well.
Thanks, Jason.
yeah, there are schools around the state that do have the ninth grade dean, and there's a reason for that. JC, correct me if I'm wrong, but the transition from eighth to ninth grade is tremendous. And moving from a middle school model to a high school model, and moving towards that independence. So, having that support really, really helps students who traditionally struggle in school.
All right,
Yeah.
now I'm looking at Monica because we shared that we both used to work at Addison Northwest, where they do not have a ninth grade dean. They have one principal and one AP, much smaller school. But wanted to just share that with that connection as you chimed in. That's one school where I know the answer to that question.
And looking at the list here, I assume that the substitute coordinator is another I assume that's an administrative role of some type. Will those duties be then spread amongst the assistant principals or principals?
That'll be something that we will have to, we're in the process of re-envisioning what that's going to look like. Part of it will result in less coverage for teachers when they are out. There's no way around that. Our current substitute coordinator it's not as simple as, a sub coming in and covering just a fourth grade class for the day, but we plug substitutes into, all 5 periods of our school day. So it's one of the consequences of this reduction is that there will be less coverage in terms of teachers, and students will be in study halls during those times. That being said, the assistant principals will be working to do the best they can in terms of making those coverages happen.
Melissa has incredible institutional knowledge, which is extremely beneficial to our team. Would you be willing to share the history on how this position came to be what it is today, so that folks can sort of, go through that, understand that process of how we got where we are?
But real quick, it's a quick question. I need to step away and go to the hockey game.
Can we pause this and do athletics?
Yeah.
Quickly?
Yes, yeah.
Do you have time, Mike? You can say no.
I have like 3 minutes.
We have 3 minutes.
Yes,
Listen, I'm so sorry. I want to hear what you're gonna say. Let's pause. Mike, could you please, just hit it with athletics, tell us what's going on?
Yeah, so, at the beginning of the year, when we were building the budget, I was asked to look for, some cuts within our athletic department. And just going through the numbers, just trying to figure out where we could, save the district some money. There were some decisions that were made around JVB, there was, fall cheerleading, JV football, gymnastics, and what have you, as we were looking through that. So I presented those things, but as our numbers roll out, because our roster size always change, people are interested in this, people are not interested in this anymore. It constantly evolves within one season and 1 year. So I'm always constantly looking at our numbers. I'm always constantly looking at, what our students are doing and what our students are thriving in. And I know there's a huge importance, not only to our JV, B programs, but to our JV football team and building up a football team and rebuilding a football team. We have had a co-op, with Burlington that has been very successful, between our schools, between our community. We also have Winooski, that helps out, with us as well as Sand Kids. It's just an opportunity to provide opportunities for students. And that is talking about our JVB programs as well. We want to provide opportunities for our students. And a lot of times those students are our freshmen, are our sophomore, students that are involved. And looking at the overall budget, if we're, taking away the 9th grade dean, we're taking away some opportunities for our 9th graders to adjust to the high school. I felt, with our group, with our admin team in the district office, that we need to find ways to get our JVB teams back into the fold in JV football. And fall cheer is actually one of our up and coming sports, and it's one of our most diverse sports teams that we have. And I want to create opportunities for those students to have a place for our sports teams and for them to excel in what they love and what they like. So I was able to play around our budget again and find ways to save money and keep the number of 140K at that number, but also be able to bring in to reintroduce JVB programs, to reintroduce cheer and JV football to our budget and still be at that target number that I was asked to hit. In addition, the other piece, when it comes to talking about night games not so much about, saving money on electricity bills and what have you and all that stuff. It is a huge event for our community. It's a huge event for our kids. They absolutely love night games. I love night games as well too. Losing the site supervisor positions for the fall, winter and springs, it's growing. If you have any athletic administrator, it's growing tougher and tougher for crowd control and supervision. People are saying wild things to our student athletes, to athletic directors that are supervising those games. So having a site, and a lot of times they'll have it at night, having the site supervisor positions that were stipend positions were a place for someone to help me supervise large crowds. Anytime we play against CVU, shout out to CVU, we're playing them in hockey tonight in the CSB Cup. I think we are, 7 years running and winning, just a quick shout out to that team. But, it's our rival, it's a huge game anytime that we play them. And, having that extra help, having that extra support has always been something that's been great, especially when you have all these supports, from 8 AM to 3:30. We have all these people, within our building that are, helping run the building. But after 3:30, it is me, my athletic trainer, and coaches that are supervising the entire building. So having extra help was very very helpful for me. It was a need. But to get to that target number, those positions were cut. So it's now back on me supervising crowd, supervising games, which is totally fine with me. Doing it because it still provides an opportunity for enjoyment for our kids and for our other schools, you know, other schools that don't have flights. They like coming to our school and having that experience. So I want to continue that experience, and our boosters have been phenomenal in supporting our teams, and that's a huge fundraiser for them. We're selling money. I mean, not selling money. Oh, that was pretty funny, but selling food, concession stands at the game and everything like that. It's just a huge opportunity for the boosters to continue to support athletics at South Burlington there. So that's just a quick overview of athletics. That my hope and my goal is to continue having JVB programs, JV football, fall cheer, and continue having night games. And if any board member wants to come and hang out and help supervise, that'll be great. You can always use
Mike
help.
will need volunteers to help supervise. Mike alone, you know, he's graciously what he's saying, and I want to highlight is that Mike alone is saying that he will supervise every single night game by himself to make this work. And I think logistically that's not possible. So we will call on the many, you know, community members who said, we're going to volunteer to help bring these back. Because Mike, you know, physically cannot work, you know, he cannot sustain that alone. So we're gonna have to look at partnerships and how we can get folks to support Mike. Because, you know, he again, this is, he's graciously saying, he's bringing these back by volunteering to single-handedly support all of these events. And he can't, you know, he's pretty good, but he's not omnipresent, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, you got the ticket taker calling me and they're looking for the cash box.
Thank you so much. We'll buy some money, Mike.
Yeah, bye. See ya.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Great. Some folks have asked, you know, is there latitude in the budget and on some things like this? And again, we've got processes in place where we look at data to make decisions and go from there. And Mike leads that process to evaluate enrollment every year. So thank you so much, Mike. Thank you for allowing that conversation to occur. We were in the middle of discussing the ninth grade dean, and you know, we're fortunate enough to have Principal McDonald, who is the proud principal at Rick Marcotte Central School. However, she's been with our district for a long time, and the majority of her career was at the high school. And I was saying she's got incredible institutional knowledge, and as we work on our budget development process, one of the things in our admin discussions that came up the other day was around sub-coordination. What does that look like in each school? So at Rick Marcotte, there's a stipended person who does this. It's baked in at Orchard School. It's baked in at Chamberlain, and it's performed by administrators, administrative staff, and some teachers or teacher leaders, right? So it's a variety of folks who perform that. At the middle school, it's also baked into Mr. Button's role. So that's something that he does within his role. At the high school, it is a standalone position. And Alyssa shared with the team, you know, the origin of that. And if you're, you know, if you want to share any of that information, that'd be helpful, just so folks can understand, you know, what we're looking at and how we got there.
Okay, try to do this quickly because there are a lot of other important positions up there. Just basically, historically, the substitute coordinator was a paraeducator who, for a stipend, would help to organize the substitutes when they came into the building. And they would come in and she would send them out to cover classes. She retired, and there was a person who was serving in sort of like an interventionist role, helping with the attendance team. That person was super organized and was able to help us fill positions with, we have fewer and fewer subs coming into the building. So that person's organization helped us. For example, if you have a chemistry teacher out and their schedule on that particular day is to teach the first block and the last block, we realized that substitute was there for the whole day, and how could we utilize that person? So a substitute might come in and teach those 2 chemistry classes, but in between that time, also teach an English class and maybe teach a Japanese class. So that one person, the sub-coordinator, would have all the teachers' schedules and be able to plug the substitute. So the substitute does work 4 periods a day, but not just for one teacher, like Mr. Craig said. If you come in to my school, you might substitute in the 3rd grade classroom all day. So that is a position that we've been fortunate to be able to utilize, I think, since when we came back from the pandemic, when there were so many absences, right? Teachers having to be out for 5 or 10 days, the substitute coordinator was on call all the time, filling holes. So like John said, without the substitute coordinator, if somebody has to leave in the middle of the day and you don't have somebody available to help pull a sub and fill that opening, then students, classes might have to have a study hall and be supervised in a different way.
Thank you, Alyssa. And I'm also thinking about special education. My understanding is that the curriculum area supervisor, Ali Gingras for special education, does organize subs for special education department and students who have individualized education plans.
That's correct. Can I ask, if they're in a study hall, presumably the teacher who's out, as long as it wasn't planned, yes, even when it's not planned absence, they would have sub-plans. So a study hall, but could the sub-plans still be?
No. It would be a loss, because if you have 2 teachers out that period that aren't covered in the students are being added to a study hall that currently exists. You've got a supervisor of the study hall, and that supervisor can't take care of all of those students and teach the 2 classes that need to be taught. So that is
So pre-pandemic, this was a 0.5 FTE, Alyssa, is that accurate? I don't mean to put you on the spot. If you don't know, I definitely don't expect you to remember.
Person, and I've not been there for 3 years, so I assume this person still helps with attendance. So
yes,
there's another, you still have to seek the students who have been absent and ask them why they were absent and try to develop a plan to help them come to school and attend class more regularly. So that person, when I was there, did some of that and coordinated the subs and ensure that classes were covered.
thanks for that. Yeah, so now you have all the iterations. I appreciate the information there. It's really helpful to have that understanding of how that position came to be what it is now. And again, we know that it's baked in at 2 of the elementary schools in the middle school and stipended at one of the other elementary schools. So you have that information for each of the buildings and how that is handled.
So I have one other question. It's about a role that I don't see listed here, but we were talking about admin before. I'm trying to be conscientious of the time because I want to make sure there's public comment.
Could I just clarify that the sub coordinator is not an admin position? I think you mentioned that.
Yes.
That's the support staff.
Thank you, support staff. Thank you for clarifying that. So, and I have one more question, but it's in the next slide, so I don't want to get to this one.
We're here to discuss it, and happy to take the questions. We also want to share some celebrations about like why this district is supportive of kids. So I want to make sure that we have a chance to do that.
So, one of the positions in the proposed budget that's garnered a lot of attention is your assistant special education director, and I would not be doing my diligence if I didn't ask about that one. So I know many in the community have questioned that we're adding in a role for what looks like $180,000 when we're cutting student facing positions. So I guess my question is, I want to frame it correctly, is what's the problem we're solving by adding in this district-wide administrative position? So if you could identify the problem, and then I would say, how is this going to work, right? And why are we adding in just a special educator would be directly student facing?
Can I start by, requesting that, our Tim Jarvis, our Senior Finance Director, provide a cost breakdown on that?
Absolutely.
I want to make sure that that's covered. It'll be a quicker answer, and then certainly Kristen and team can provide the rationale. What problem are we solving? Why couldn't we hire a special educator?
And I know we've discussed this before. I just want to make, I think it's important in this particular meeting to make sure we get everybody here. so.
Absolutely, thank you.
Yes, and so whenever we are adding positions, new positions, we try to be as conservative as possible because we don't know what are the qualifications and salary requirements of the individual. And we also don't know what insurance plan they're going to select. So we don't know if it's a young single person, we don't know if it's a person who's covering their spouse, or a family. So we estimate, that role, with a higher number in order to ensure that we have the money in the budget to hire the person. I think that in retrospect, we probably targeted the base salary of this person higher, than necessary, and it's something that's controllable because you hire the person you want, and hope to align their salary. But the point that I think a lot of people miss is the district expenses associated with hiring anybody. And people look at base salaries as sort of the number that it costs the district to hire somebody. You know, and this is akin to my father telling me when I was 16 years old, it costs more than just putting gas in the tank to drive a car. But in addition to the base salary, there is there is a lot of taxes associated with that. So you look at social security tax and unemployment tax, childcare tax that the district is covering, although we don't necessarily have to, but we've decided to. And that alone is over 8% of someone's base salary. In addition to that, we've shown in other board presentations, the cost of insurance packages that we offer our employees, which are negotiated by the state. And which can be in some cases more than the individual's base salary. So in order to estimate the cost of a new employee, we assume that they are going to take the most expensive insurance package because we can't shortchange ourselves you could take the other approach and you could say, well, let's assume it's a young single person and they're gonna have a low salary and they're gonna take a single, insurance program. I don't think that's the right way to do it, because if that's not the case, then you're gonna be stuck with a budget that is insufficiently funded.
Thank you, Tim. All right, so to answer, as we've gotten the salary addressed in detail. And so we're now going to answer the question of what need is this position addressing and why couldn't we hire a special educator? And whoever wants to speak to that, or we can do it as a team, jump in. Kristen's like, I know it's me, I'm in the hot seat.
It's me, and I'm not gonna turn that back on again, so if you can't hear me.
Is that on the fritz? It sounded like it's,
it is, and so I'm gonna hold off on any more.
just talk loud, please. These
Sound
are, there's no, yeah.
You may want to use a mic only because,
we got one for you.
yeah, and we're recording it, so it will help with, I think, the audio.
Great, so I'm gonna try and answer this. I'm hoping that maybe some of my colleagues might step in and help with this as well in regards to the support that's needed. There's an increase in needs across the board, and in particular, we've noticed that there's a significant increase in special education, in behavior and in challenges that we've had, and I think post-COVID, folks have noticed that quite a bit. We currently have 466 students on IEPs, and I think, got my phone here with some information. I left my paper that had all my information on it upstairs, so I apologize for that. And 192 students who we serve through section 504, which is equal is a civil rights equal access law. But many times special educators are needed to provide supports and services for those students as well. So The reason we need this,
Have your notes, I have a hard copy of them.
so the reason, part of the reasons for filling this position or having this position is to ensure oversight, to ensure compliance. And these are all things, again, that folks don't necessarily see as boots on the ground, and they are boots on the ground. But so that's part of what this person would need to be doing. Also collaborating with school principals, working to develop supports and systems when we're struggling to figure out how are we gonna support some of our really challenging students, and what that might look like. It might be riding the bus. It might be, you know, doing paperwork that needs to get accomplished. And that's something that I've done this year and in years past. It's things that, you know, it's kind of, and other duties as assigned. The special educator, we've renamed the position, but the assistant special ed director, is somebody who can fill all those slots. Most importantly, I think it's really working to support our special educators, our educational support systems folks, because that's special educators, that's SLPs, that's our OTs, that's our PTs, our BCBAs. It's helping provide oversight and support for all those people. Currently, in our district, I'm the person who provides support and oversight to that. In other districts, there are a director and an assistant director. In some districts, there's a administrator at each level, each building, sorry.
Kristen, in the district where I live, CVSD, there is a special ed director in each building.
They call them administrators, yeah, so they're in each building, overseeing special ed to those buildings, and then they have a special ed director, who oversees it in its entirety.
And my understanding is that there's also intensive special needs directors in our neighboring schools. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so I think, again, thinking about how we're supporting our students who have some of the highest needs. It's supporting what programming looks like. When we think about our multi-tiered systems of supports and how we're going to support all of our students, what does that look like for some of our more intensive special needs students?
In thinking about, in conversation with Lindland and Blackman, who is a firm that supports, school districts, in a variety of capacities, and has expertise in the area of special education. My understanding from Heather Lynn, Senior Managing Partner, is that, this year, and only trumping last year, we have had, more, lawsuits regarding involving special education and more mediation. Kristen spends a significant amount of time in mediation with families. Times those are 8-10 hour sessions. I want to speak to a few things that I've seen Kristen do that are, you know, really direct service to students, in addition to these, you know, a lot of, you know, grants management is something that happens through this office. And submitting a significant amount of state reporting, which seems to be increasing with new administration. I have seen Kristen ride the bus with students. I have seen Kristen serve as a one-on-one interventionist with students. I have seen Kristen accompany students in crisis to medical settings, to support students when they're working with parents directly. Is this position someone who would do similar tasks? And then maybe, you know, principals, are there ways, you know, in my view, when our special ed director is doing things like working with an escalated student, how does that provide the opportunity for the schools to continue to function effectively and free up school-based administration to support as well? Because I think those are pieces, you know, Kristen, I know that about your schedule, working very closely with you, and I think those are important pieces of information to highlight.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be another person who can help serve in those roles. I think about, we've had, you know, some expected and unexpected leaves of special educators. And so this is somebody who could potentially step in and help support those positions. When we've had unfilled positions, the potential is this person could also, again, I'm not suggesting they can do it all, and be in every one of these positions. What I'm suggesting is that this is a way for them to help support, along with some of those other things that we've talked about in regards to compliance, in regards to, collaborating with the principals, hiring, you know, I think we've talked a little bit about, our administrators are bogged down with hiring and trying to, you know, when folks leave the positions, interventionist positions, special ed positions, regular ed positions, it's really incredibly time consuming, and that takes them away from the hard work that they're doing as well. So again, the hope is that this is something that's going to support not just special education, but also support our administrative team.
For several years, we've had chronic special educator vacancies, particularly at the middle school. Suzanne, would you be able to speak to, you know, that hiring process? Why can't we hire? What are you seeing for applicants? What has that process looked like? Any of that information for the community to understand, to address this question, why aren't we hiring a special educator? That's the faulty mic. Let's actually, perhaps we could just remove this one completely, and that way we can bring this to the old elementary teacher coming out and the Bucek Book Hospital at our classroom libraries. So this has to go to the IT hospital. Person PLC. Thanks so much, Nick.
Good evening. So this is day 104 of school. So I will talk from my 104 days of experience in South Burlington. And I think, you know, we've seen this throughout. We saw this before, this trend before the pandemic in Vermont, during the pandemic, and as we are in the later years here, where our pool of special educator applicants into Vermont is a very small pool. Our area colleges have really been working on boosting on dual licensing, but it remains an area where, you know, back 10 years ago, you may have a whole list of applicants to look for, a whole list for a variety of positions, and now we look from a very small pool, or even a pool where you might wait weeks for an applicant to populate in the pool, and then whether that's a viable candidate for our students or not. I can definitely speak to that, and that has been for several years in the state of Vermont, and I do appreciate that our partner colleges are working on helping to boost that with some incentives into the special education field. Our special educators have certainly the numbers that Kristen just said across our district, you know, I kind of want to hear those one more time. 466 students entitled to additional support through an IEP, an additional almost 200 for 504s. And the compliance that goes with that. And I think, you know, one thing that I didn't hear, but I imagine is part of it, is the amount of professional development needs that we have for our special educators to make sure that they have the time and support to attend professional development, and the number of areas that are really annual training and support around for special education is pretty wide, and requires expertise to come in and deliver that that professional development for them. And certainly when we have situations where we as building administrators need additional support with expertise in special education regulations beyond our expertise, it is important to have some pretty immediate help to situations.
Thank you. That's really helpful. Any further questions regarding this position?
I don't have a question. I have, it's been very clear to me in my time on the school board. I've heard this time and again that we have administrators and principals and people who are doing jobs that are not their job. because there's such a shortage. And then we hear the strong message from the community, don't cut student facing positions, which I deeply understand. But when we have folks not able to do their job because they're having to do student facing jobs, I think that just really shows systemically that we don't actually have enough admin. Like, we don't have enough support to do the work that you need to do. And I want to try to start to at least get the message out there that admin is maybe not student facing, but it's student supporting, and it's staff supporting. So I thank you for explaining all of that. And when you said, like, certainly this person won't be able to do it all, and I'm sitting here listening to how you attempt to do it all as one person. So, and not that you're not a team, but just like in your role with your duties. I just feel like that needs to be said. Thank you for your work.
I wanna say, you know, publicly as well, our administrative team works incredibly hard, is incredibly dedicated, and will always do whatever it takes to support students and staff around the clock, always. I cannot thank them enough for their incredible work and support of our systems. It's an exceptional team of administrators.
Time check, right?
How are we doing on time?
We just have part 3 and I have one question for that. We probably can answer it quickly. So I'll make sure we have.
I guess I wanted to ask about the school counselor, or high school counselor position. And because, I mean, I've had a high schooler, both in high school, and I have 2 there now. And I know that they're already strapped. And so I'm just curious about what the plans are for supporting our counselor, our counseling staff.
Can I ask you to speak to what the expectation of the role is too, because I don't want there to be confusion about, like, could you just be very clear?
Sure.
about this?
Yes. I'm going to provide information pertaining to the education quality standards and the Rule 2000 series, right? And I'm speaking from a compliance perspective. And then JC will team up and he'll provide information on what the impact of this is. Because it is significant and all of these reductions come at a cost, as you've heard. The Education Quality Standards, section 2121.2.1 has staffing requirements. I'm going to read directly from this requirement. Student counseling staff shall be sufficiently filled by licensed school counselors and other student support personnel to carry out the school's counseling service, such as guidance counselors, student assistance program counselors, of which we have, homeschool coordinators, which we have through the Howard Center, multilingual learner coordinators, Monica DeRosiers, we also have liaisons, and school-based clinicians, which we also have. At the elementary level, there shall be no more than 300 students per school counselor. We're in compliance. And other student support personnel. To be clear, it is counselors and all of those other positions, from school clinicians to multilingual supports, to SAP officers, homeschool coordinators, who count toward that ratio. Schools with fewer than 300 students shall employ, that doesn't apply to the high school, so we've covered that for the elementary school. At the secondary level, which is where there is a 1.0 board-approved reduction for the fiscal year 25. At the secondary level, there shall be no more than 200 students per school counselor and other student support personnel. At the high school, we have a full-time SAP, Gar Smith. We have 5 counselors now. We will have 4 next year. We also have multilingual teachers, the district's DEI SEL director. And how many Howard School clinicians do we have at the high school? 3. So that it will be, so let's do the math on that. That's 4, and the current enrollment of the high school is 801 students. Next year, it's projected to be 813. So you would need by that 4 staff members. We have Gar Smith, SAP, Monica, DEI, 4 school counselors, 3 SAPs, and then, in addition to, I don't know, are we drawing a distinction between school-based coordinators and, homeschool coordinators?
Our school services clinicians, I think, are
All into one.
encompassing, so that's.
So that is twice the required staffing to support these, and I'm strictly speaking to compliance and the education quality standards of what we must maintain. The impact, of course, is significant in all of our students and all of these reductions. JC, can share that in detail with you.
Hey, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Great. Yeah, while we have all those other additional SEL supports for our students, losing a school counselor comes with a significant impact for our students. This is going to increase our caseloads for all of our kids, and it's actually just to be clear, we'll have 3.6 counselors, 0.4 FTE. That is for our director of school counseling. And the roles that, as many people know, whether it's from your own personal experience, having a school counselor or those school counselors of your kids, the high school level, with our younger students, it's helping them develop their schedules, making sure they're taking the courses that they need to take. And with our older students, it's, a significant amount of post-secondary planning. And our school counselors, it's going to be less time because their caseloads are going to increase. And it's going to be a strain on our system for sure, and our ability to be responsive to the needs of our students, and just as important, be proactive. I think it's also, I can't not say this, but we'll be losing a Black young male school counselor. And in a time where we're trying to diversify our staff, in his short time at SB, he's made a significant impact on our students of color, and that's going to be significantly missed. So there's a bunch of levels to the impact that this particular reduction is going to have on our school.
Thank you, JC. And JC, I appreciate you adding detail to the 4 FTEs. Our director of school counseling is, you heard what JC said, she's a CAS. So he's, sharing that information that 1 FTE is 0.4 CAS. Great, thanks.
Right. And so she has a reduced caseload as she's overseeing all those other components of the department that Violet spoke of, whether it's our clinicians, our SAP. Yep.
Thank you. Any additional questions on this particular topic?
I want to be respectful of your time, and we're supposed to go for 20 more minutes, but we still have a whole another part. And we said we would do 30 minutes of the product.
And the celebrations, which are critically important to the folks who, our team came here tonight really wanting to share those. So I want to make sure that is a part of this. While we're having airtime to talk about some of the hard adjustments, our team feels really strongly that we can share some of the reasons, some of the ways this budget is supporting staff. And I want to make sure that that's part of the conversation tonight as well. When our team met yesterday, that was something we felt really strongly we wanted to share with the community.
Okay, so what's the best use of? So what's left on the part 3? We did athletics, so we have big picture and then the loss of the math, English, and Japanese classroom teachers. That's sort of what's left that hasn't been offered up.
Nick, do you mind going to the next slide?
Okay. So let's
give this its due and then move on to celebrations and then.
Thank you so much, and we'll be mindful of time. JC, would you be willing to speak to math, English, Japanese teachers at SBHS?
Sure. In terms of math and English, reduction in math, the main piece with that will be increased class sizes. Specifically at our Math 1 and Math 2 levels. We will still be able to maintain our AP offerings. In terms of the English reduction, that is also, we'll see increased class sizes, but we are still able to maintain our AP offerings. We'll also have to, in this piece, we're in the process of figuring out, and that is our literacy supports, and how we will be able to provide those. And in terms of Japanese, that is we've had declining enrollment in that program, but it's also been a really special part of our school. And with the elimination of 0.8 FTE and world language Japanese, that is elimination of the program. Big Picture has been a school within a school here at SB for a long time now. We've had a partnership with Mount Mansfield in continuing that program for a number of years. One of the things that has been great about having Big Picture be part of our school is that many of the philosophies and the pedagogy that makes Big Picture what it is has become more part of our curriculum in terms of project-based and independent learning. That being said, it's a special program and it serves a really unique purpose, and in terms of trying to figure out ways to continue to support those students, we will try our best, whether it's through independent learning opportunities such as internships. And then, sorry, I got this, and athletics, Mike already spoke to those pieces already. I think the last thing I'll add is these are like pretty significant reductions that have real impacts on the student experience at the high school. And I just want to highlight the importance of the need for us as a community to pass this first budget, because I really shudder to think what deeper cuts would look like for our students' experience.
Thank you, JC. I want to add to John Craig and his team, as well as Teresa Mazza, the curriculum area supervisor, who supports world languages, are really, as always, trying to support students and have been in discussion with me about alternate, models. What could this look like? Is this something where, how could we continue to maintain Japanese and look at other reductions? So I wanted to put that out there. The team is really still thinking about how to support students. And then I want to provide strictly, again, financials, specifics regarding the Big Picture program and MOU. I've had a lot of questions on the staffing and the cost and the MOU, the memorandum of understanding with Mount Mansfield, and I want to provide those actual figures. We currently have 3 South Burlington High School students enrolled in Big Picture. We pay 2 staff members to run Big Picture. The total cost of that staffing is $242,067. We have a partnership with, we have a memorandum of understanding with Mount Mansfield. They have 13 students enrolled in our program. They pay us a flat rate of $84,000 annually. The tuition cost to attend South Burlington High School is $21,734. I think that's important information for folks to have. Because I've had questions on the figures. As John Craig said, our staff is dedicated to always supporting students. Independent learning opportunities and internships are available. We cannot replace Big Picture, period. unless there are significant changes in the ed funding formula, we cannot keep doing the same thing. I want to be clear, there is no replacement. However, our dedicated staff has, several options and partnerships. Those range from SB Explore, Career Development Center, Bridging, Career Technical Education, Dual Enrollment, Progressive, LEAP, Project Search, South Point. None of those are the same as Big Picture. I want to be clear. However, those are some options that we have in addition to the traditional tracks at the high school. So I want to be clear, I'm not saying those are comparable programs. I'm providing information on all of the programming available to students who attend SPHS. Any questions on these three expenditures?
Yeah, I think Big Picture is a phenomenal program. We heard significant testimony from students on it. So the MMU students don't tuition into South Wellington, right? It's just a flat fee, so.
That's correct. It's a flat fee of $84,000. This year that covers 13 students. And again, our tuition rate is just under $22,000 per pupil.
And it's the idea, we've got 2 full-time educators. Is there like a ratio that we were trying to maintain of like 1 educator to 6 kids or 5 kids, or what was the idea behind 2?
Enrollment has, the staffing has been tailored to enrollment. Big Picture has changed significantly over the years with decreasing enrollment over the years. There are fewer staff members now than there have been in the past.
So it's not something we could run with 1 educator. We really need 2.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll just add to, our current Big Picture teachers have been in conversation, like we care about these MMU kids, like when they're with us, they're our kids too. And we've been in conversations with their sending school MMU and making sure that, their program for those who aren't graduating this year, that they're able to continue some of the great things that they're doing.
Thank you for saying that, JC. That's important.
That was my last question, actually. Was
Thank
Big
you.
Picture, so I appreciate
Thanks so
that.
much. Yeah, so our team feels it's really important to talk about some of the positives, and heard JC just, say really clearly, like he shudders, his words where he shudders to think about what would happen, if there were further reductions required. And so, our team has said, hey, we want to come and share with the community some highlights and, positives about this budget, how you're supporting the students in this budget. So I want to open it up to the team to speak to that at this time.
I'll jump in. Okay, so I have some really exciting things that are happening simultaneously. I say I, and because I'm very excited to share, but we at Orchard School, first and foremost, we have a wonderful PTO who is super invested, and Orchard School, we are currently in building K-5 and really value student voice at every level. And both things I want to share tonight are really highlighting student voice, and our PTO works phenomenally with our teachers and our students to help do that. You will see in WCAX tonight that we had 5th graders interviewed because in like the spirit of Valentine's Day and just kindness week and belonging as a district goal, and also just the spirit of our school and community. We had a parent in our PTO speaking with her 2 students at Orchard, and brought it to the PTO and also to other students and our art teacher to talk about. So we are setting the world record, or attempting to set a world record, of how many hearts that we can place in our entryway at Orchard School, to let everybody know when they walk into our building that they are welcomed and that they deserve love and kindness. And I say setting because there isn't a current world record of this, so we're going to create it. And we have had parent volunteers, family volunteers, and 5th grade students after school the past couple of days putting together different posters to count the number of hearts we have. Our current enrollment, I believe, is at 415 students right now. We have over 415 hearts, and that means that kindergartners to 5th graders have been making hearts in art class and other times with Susie Ely, who is wonderful and has been working with our PTO to do so. So
We are not fully set up yet, but WCX did come today, and if you see the clip, it's awesome because we've got, I think, 5 fifth graders who really speak and are quoted in the interview. Along with that, we are simultaneously running a fundraiser because we have a extraordinary SEL team, our social emotional learning team, with counselors and our SEL coach who in the past, I believe it started 3 years ago, and I think it took a year or two, and now we're fully functioning as a student leadership council for 5th graders. So they have many different subcommittees in our student leadership council, and it's completely student driven. And so we have 2 facilitators, one of our school counselors and our SEL coach, but we really take the lead of the students, so much so that our fundraiser right now from our Humane Society charity group is fundraising to pie certain teachers or adults in the building in the face at an all-school assembly, and they're fundraising to donate to the Humane Society in winter months, different things that they need. So just 2 really special things that are happening right now that really come from our students, and that really couldn't also be done without people in our buildings and our families. So without our SEL team members going above and beyond their job descriptions to help facilitate these things, it wouldn't be possible for it. And yeah, I just think that those are really special things that we get to take part in, and we're bringing in our community partners as well. And our students are leading the way for us. So come to Orchard, you will be bombarded with hearts as you walk in, and also a really beautiful mural that was done in chalk paint by one of our, or actually several parents are. Yeah. Very excited.
I'll just briefly tell you about our event today. And I think, any day that you're in the district, you can catch something special going on. Today was a day where we are a facility that we cannot put our whole school together in one place. We don't have risers in our gym. We don't have the capacity, and thanks to South Burlington High School hosting us today. Our big activity as part of our Spirit Week was a winter carnival that went on all day long. I saw the smile there. Do you remember that one? Did you have winter carnival? Yeah.
My little brother is
Excellent. So, and imagine where the almost 600 students arrived at South Burlington High School for over 2 hours today, where the very exciting staff-student basketball game took place. With all of our students, the excitement, there was musical chairs, there was just everybody in community together. A feat for Spirit Week with the activities and the cooperation and the interdependence. And the first day of this year that we had kind of random lunch. We had 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. They just were assigned a color for their groups for the day. And it is a pretty magical place to be, to see students feeling that sense of belonging. And I think, one thing I look at as a building administrator, I look at what was our attendance rate going into today. We are at the height of cold and flu season. You have, that almost 600 students, and we had only 31 absent today, which that if a student could be at school today, they were at school today to be in the company and build relationships, see their staff, their teachers in a different way. It was also Wacky Wednesday as part of Spirit Week, add a little creativity to it. And a really fun moment for me, not knowing our high scores. I'm really excited to get our 5th graders that, I just learned even more about from Principal Kane, is we also saw so many of the high school students peeking around the corner because they remembered what it was like to be at the basketball game for Spirit Week. And it was pretty much a continual kind of flood of high school students just checking it out and seeing if it was, as great as they remembered to hang out.
I will add that a number of students came to me this morning wanting to watch the faculty student basketball game, and I had to remind them they weren't in middle school anymore.
And just a little last minute plug for the teachers, the staff won the basketball game.
Great.
John, did you want to plug the high school before I go?
Sure, I can just say a couple things. One is we were happy to host the middle school, and we continue to want to build the relationship across the parking lot, and it's been great working with Suzanne and Dave over the last the school year. As our students reps have been keeping everybody in the loop on the high school side of things, we had 2 students who were honored a couple weeks ago as Vermont 2025 Presidential Scholars. Quick update for the robotics team. We did host the state championship this past weekend, and our robotics team came in second in the competition, but also won an award that is kind of just as, if not more impressive in terms of their work leading up to it, and that was the Inspire Award. And that has a lot to do with the community outreach they've done, and not just building and competing with their robot, but how passionate they are about sharing their love of STEM with the community. We also had another student who, Dave Grippo, who's a retired jazz band teacher, but he's been coming in to teach jazz band on Tuesday mornings, and I've been able to sit in with them with my trombone for this school year. An incredible drummer, and for the second year in a row, he's been selected as an all-state jazz band drummer, which is like a pretty big deal, especially for a 10th grade student. And then one other piece to just highlight is that we had a student, Momin Wakar, who won the 16th annual Vermont Brain Bee at UVM. And he's going to be heading down to New Jersey to compete at the National Brain Bee competition, which is also just some really great things. So across the board, our students are doing really amazing things. And I say this quite often, but one of the things that makes our high school so special is the relationships that our teachers and staff have with our kids, and just working to make sure that all of our students feel seen and supported and cared for. And it's pretty genuine. And if you spend any time in the high school, and if you spend any time in high schools in general, the vibe and the energy at 550 Dorset, it just feels different. And it's a place where we really believe and we see all of our students thrive on a daily basis. And that's because of the relationships that are at the center of our community. I can keep going, but I can keep bragging about the school. And I know if Patrick was watching, he could keep going as well. But I'll stop there.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm good, Lissa.
All right, thanks, John. All right, so at Rick Marcotte Central School, we also are a school that really values student voice and choice. Our students have they're able to participate in a lot of big decisions that we make at the school. I think everybody knows that we named a city street in South Burlington. Detilio Drive is now our driveway. We just got our address. We are 61 Detilio Drive officially. I think we're on Google Maps too. They just notified Google Maps to change that. And our students, they led that effort, and it was really important to them to name a street after a valued longtime staff member, Sue Detilio. We have a great PTO. This year we put on a circus. We're planning to do that again next year. That involved every single student, K through 5, in learning how to become proficient in a skill and then perform it in front of our community. Our students and PTO and our families participated in a playground cleanup day to help our facility staff and custodians in the summer when we had some cleanup to do before we opened the school day. Kids were painting the yellow strip on the corner of our sidewalks. Moms and dads were helping repair our picnic tables and paint them and spruce them up so that we can have a really solid school opening. We have concerts, not only our winter concert, music concert at our school, we also go out into the community and perform. We performed the last 2 years in the auditorium, at the public library, Last year, we also performed at Allard Square. They were booked this year on the day that we could go. But we have a really good relationship with the neighbors along Market Street and Detilio Drive. My PTO said, listen, you should talk about academics because we are really excited about the new CKLA curriculum, which is our literacy curriculum, and our school-wide delivery of illustrative math. We work with not only our specialists, but our instructional coach to help our teachers be able to deliver a really solid horizontal and vertical curriculum. Our teachers are reporting that our students are months ahead in their skill development for both CKLA and illustrative math. Kids are super excited about the curriculum. They love learning about Greek mythology and the Renaissance and the human body. These are, we were not sure if this content would be appealing to students, but they are really diving in and loving the curriculum and feeling really proud about their effort. In 4th and 5th grade, we've begun to specialize. So every 4th and 5th grader, they have a homeroom teacher that maybe they're a literacy teacher, but then the next part of the day, they have a math teacher. These teachers specialize in content so that they can become really good at the content and the delivery of the content. Our 4th graders entered an after-school experience, a math program called Prodigy, where they completed math challenges after school, and they are the state champions this month for the Prodigy competition. They've been entered to the national championship, and my math teachers say they have a really good shot at this national championship. So this is the first time this has gone public. We just found out. They've got some prizes that we're going to share with 4th graders. My students really want to be involved in school-wide decisions. So we had a little bit of a problem with the cafeteria. It's hard to supervise the cafeteria. There are a lot of students in there. Mr. Courier and I are the cafeteria supervisors. Because we have been short-staffed in that area. And so we depended on our students to help us develop a climate that we want in our cafeteria. And this has developed into high competition for students to have jobs at the end of the cafeteria time. They want to sweep, they want to help with the compost. They want to wash the tables. We've had to use bear sticks to decide who gets to do those jobs at the end of every lunch. They are table callers, they are door holders. We have so many jobs in the cafeteria. It is amazing to see students be so involved and care so much about their school and what goes on in around in the school. And we're developing leaders at the Marquette Central School. I could go on, but the time is a ticking away. So
Thank you so
I think
much.
that's enough for principal.
So, this has been lovely. My face hurts from smiling, which is something that, is a welcomed, welcomed feeling. I want to share, a quick, shout out for Gertrude Chamberlain School. So you'll notice, Principal Ruel is not here tonight, and it is because, this evening is the, first night of performance for the younger students at Chamberlain. They're having their school-wide play of Finding Nemo. They don't have a space, like Suzanne was saying, large enough to accommodate the full school. So they have the older students, 3 through 5 will come tomorrow. But tonight is opening night for students. And I also want to say that Holly has said the show will go on tomorrow, rain or shine. But tonight, students are, as we speak, I'm probably wrapping up, Finding Nemo and incredible work of so many people. All tickets are free. Each parent was given, or guardian was given a certain 3 tickets. So really exciting, and Holly wouldn't have missed this had it not been for that. And she'll be doing that tomorrow night as well.
I want to share, I do have also a student-centered celebration. I'm looking at Gracie, she's like, what's coming? So, my student, centered, shout out is, that, I have, a meeting on Monday with, Senator Ron Hinsdale. We're gonna be advocating for budget. And Gracie is gonna be joining that meeting and that call to advocate and to provide student voice. And Gracie's good friend is Senator Hinsdale's intern. And Gracie reached out to me and she said, hey, Violet, I know you've got this call. I'd love to be a part of it. And I want to just praise that that tenacity, that drive and interest in doing this in her free time to advocate for our schools and to support our schools. And to, what an incredible student who's gone through our system who says, hey, I'm gonna reach out to my superintendent and I'm gonna get on that call because we need to make change. And I'm so just filled with pride, knowing that that's who you are. And, could say the same thing about so many of our students. So that's my shout out. We were just connecting over that. And so, that's a student-centered connection that's near and dear to the board. So thank you so much, Gracie. I'm looking forward to this call. We should do a check-in prior to that. Compare notes and divide and support. That's what I call it. We don't divide and conquer, we divide and support. So
That sounds real.
And then,
I had a quick shout out.
yes,
I
yes.
wanted to let folks know that we hired a physical therapist who is a former student of ours, so that's really exciting. So we have a new physical therapist and that's who's a former student and super excited to be a part of the South Burlington community again. I wanted to mention that, one of our former school services clinicians did, some training and support for our pre-K. For our pre-K folks, around play, which was, I've heard was amazing.
It was great. It was awesome.
Yeah, so, and that was pretty amazing. Our K through, 12 special ed department came together and did some training with our administrators, which was, a really great opportunity. From a kid's specific perspective, I was invited to go to, a girls hockey team. So as many of you might know, South Burlington unfortunately lost their girls hockey team. So some of our students are playing for, a cohort in Burlington and they happen to be playing at, Karen's Arena. And one of the students invited me to come play. Unfortunately, when I got there, the timing was later than anticipated, but she was able to share with me, a video of her playing hockey. So while I didn't get to see her live playing hockey, I did get to see a video of her. My final shout out is I happened to be at dinner in Middlebury and I'm pretty sure it was Sue DeTilio's niece who said, did I know about DeTilio Lane? Drive. And she was so excited. So even in Middlebury, we're all talking about DeTilio drives. So anyway, those are all mine.
I don't have a shout out, but I think that, what I'm hearing, there's so many, from a bird's eye perspective, I see so many spaces where we're making huge strides in belonging amongst students, and I can't help but continue to think, strong schools feed strong communities. Healthy schools feed healthy communities, and that's not just one moment in time, that is cyclical. And so we have generations of students moving through and doing incredible things. And we need to come together as a community and invest in every single one of our students. Almost 3,000 of them have unlimited futures and they deserve that. So go out and vote.
No. Thank you so much to our exceptional administrators and to our incredible teachers who are making all of this possible every day. It is a true honor to work alongside you.
Yeah, thank you. I've been talking to, my support systems and I'm really tired. Like, this has been a lot and it's a lot of hard work. And hearing some of these highlights really just helps. Like, I know why I'm doing the work, but it helps to hear it. So thank you.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity.
Okay, are we ready to move on?
Good, yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
So we're gonna move to the public comment portion of this evening with scheduled 30 minutes. And I would like to prioritize clarifying questions first over statements, because the intention tonight was to clarify questions. And of course, we can have budget questions and budget comments, but if you have questions, please. Those first. Great, thank you.
Go ahead. After you.
Hi, my name's Brian Companion. I'd like to start out first with an apology. At a recent meeting, I informed people that there were procedures for superintendent's reviews. I was wrong. Wrong a lot. But I do want to apologize to all of you for spreading bad information. We have enough of it in our society now, and I shouldn't be contributing to it. So, my bad, sorry. I did contact the Agency of Education and they set me straight. So, it doesn't mean I've changed my opinions, but we can agree to disagree. Hearing the story of Big Picture and the Mount Mansfield students, has there been any serious conversations with them about a serious cost shifting?
So the MMU, so not for fiscal year 26, MMU is I'm so sorry, I'm speaking out of turn. Yeah, so MMU is not in a position to be able to, pay that tuition rate per student, which is why we came up with that MOU so many years ago. So the conversation has been really around supporting those students who are currently enrolled in our program at MMU. And that's where the focus has been on, supporting them. As you know, likely MMU is facing difficult budgetary constraints as us. And for us to say we need nearly 22,000 per, 13 of your pupils is really a significant change from $84,000 total.
Yeah. Too bad. The principal there is a cousin of mine. I'll have to talk. In listening to the discussion about district employees and student-facing employees, I'll just say that conversation happens in any business when you start talking about reductions. It's, the people who produce the work, who are seen by the client, serve the customer, and so on, and what's behind the curtain over here that supports them and makes them able to function. I kind of got lost when all the names were coming out, not names, positions. Do you have an org chart somewhere on the website?
Reach out to Karen Dancher, Senior Director of HR. She's working on that. We've had, some changes this year, and she's got a slide deck that has all of that information that she's finishing up, just updating changes. So feel free to reach out to her. The physical org chart is not depicted graphically at this point in time online. However, that's in the works. What we do have online is a full listing of all of our employees and their job descriptions.
That doesn't give you the picture. There's 500 people there. When we looked at these type of decisions in our business, we took a look at, okay, we're a construction company. How many carpenters, electricians, and everything else has to go because our business is slowing? Wasn't the same as yours, but the money wasn't coming in. It was a budget issue. And how many people do we need here over here on the Seward side? It might be interesting to the community to see what you're running and what those positions are, how they lay out. And they may get an appreciation. They may have the opposite. They may say, oh God, it's too much. But then, we used to do this with our field forces in both groups. Where do we cut, folks? It has to happen.
Yeah.
So
I appreciate that, Brian.
Just a thought.
Internally, we've looked at that, and we've had those same discussions. Nursing, ratios 1 to 500, with school counselors, at the elementary level, 1 to 300, high school, 1 to 200. So we're
Right.
definitely attending to those as a full team. So I asked, you and I are aligned in our thinking, when I asked, why aren't these on district org charts? Some of you have heard me say publicly, a lot of the work that our team has done has been evaluating the org charts of other systems. You will not find org charts on district websites in the area.
Burlington's is.
It's not something that's consistent in every district. In fact, I don't know if there are others other than Burlington. So we've had to do a lot of reaching out to the districts directly to find that information. Like I said, we are working on those graphics. I think, it is one thing to have all of the jobs listed with their descriptions, but to see how they work together visually is really supportive. So that's in the works now. Again, I appreciate, that question and I think that's valuable information.
I think people who are used to looking at businesses, the flatter they see an organization, the better they feel about it, especially if it's the behind the scenes side, support, admin, making the place run. And we used to get the question, why do we need such a big accounting department? Do you want to get paid weekly? Was the first response. Do we need to pay our bill? That type of stuff. The final issue I have is, a year ago, I posted something about the district's insurance program, about the cost of it, not questioning the cost. And my daughter followed up with Tim, got a very prompt response. You buy your program from Visbit. I made my living 30 years buying insurance and putting together risk programs. That's what I did. I'm not questioning Visbit. They've been in business for 40 years. They provide a service. The issue I have is that it's never been taken to the market. And I looked at and Tim, by the way, provided my daughter Carly with a lot of information. And in the market is what it'll tell you what things are worth. And I'm not questioning, again, their ability to do anything. They've been around for a long time. But the way Tim calculated it, back in fiscal 24, it was costing $584,000 roughly for this program. Looking at some of the budget detail and finding 3 line items in it that would fall in this category, the number is $700,000. So almost a 20% increase. And I'm not questioning that, because the insurance market has gone haywire in the last 3 years. Between property and California fires and Vermont disasters, we're having them here. Property insurers are getting their money back, no question. Workers' comp has escalated because payrolls are. But you don't have a market test. And I would say to all of you, if you were renovating your kitchen and someone said, counters, cabinets, appliances, $35,000, would you sign up in a minute? I don't think so. That's not how we think. So my thought is, you really need to get to the market. Because if I add in 2 line items in Tim's report, we're now at 800,000. If there's a 10% savings out there, and the numbers you're talking about cutting are sometimes single digit thousands, you got $80,000 that's out there for you. And the bottom line is, Visbit does a good job, but 2 of the biggest districts in Chittenden County left them 10 years ago. And they didn't leave because they paid more, or their coverage was worse, or their deductibles were higher, or their service was worse. There's just insurance. It's out there. There are hundreds of companies selling it. And all you need to do is find one with an appetite for your risk. And the savings can be significant. And in the times you're facing, I would think a 10 to 15% reduction, if you find the right carrier, work with the right agency who has those relationships. If you found 15%, you're talking 120,000. That fills some of those gaps that you're trying to cut now. So those are my comments. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. I heard you say it was 30 minutes.
Well, 30 minutes is what we've allotted reviews. What did you left?
Yeah, I just want to make sure there's 30. Yeah.
Hi, you probably recognize us. We're from preschool. My name is Stephanie Duncan. I am a special educator in the preschool program. I just want to start by saying, when I interviewed for this job, it was a very intentional choice. I had the privilege of working with families in this district for over a decade as a babysitter, as a nanny, and they are some of the best children I know, and I do not say that lightly. And that is not just, I said this in my interview, this is not just a testament to their parents, it is a testament to the schools. And I stand by that. When people ask in this current climate, like, oh, are you gonna stay? And I always say yes, because I believe in this district. I believe in the work that teachers are doing, just like you were saying about administration going above and beyond. I see every single day, teachers, interventionists, paraeducators, lunchroom staff going above and beyond to support students in a way that does not happen everywhere. And so I want to start by saying, I really, really feel pride in working here. And it was a very intentional choice for me to apply to this job. I had been in a job that I loved and I probably would still be in. But when this came up, I knew I had to take the opportunity. And so I do feel very privileged to work in this district. I also want to acknowledge that preschool didn't have an administrator at the table tonight to talk about the celebrations going on in pre-K. There are a lot of celebrations that we witness every day. They might not be as big as Finding Nemo and naming a drive.
Or a world record.
Or a world record, but like, we are potty training kids that we never thought were gonna be potty trained by the time they went to kindergarten, and we are doing that. And we are collaborating with outside agencies to support students in a way that is so comprehensive and what they need to be successful in moving forward in their education here. I am not one to speak up unless I truly, truly believe in what I'm saying. And cutting the classroom teachers from the preschool program is a huge detriment to this district. Not only that, it's going to actually be a cost addition when we look at moving forward. Like Kristen said, we have pretty good data, both historical and projected data about what our preschool enrollment will look like and the support needs of students. Moving forward, so our current classroom model, as you pointed out, Violet, is we are well staffed in the classroom. We have a special educator, a classroom teacher, a speech language pathologist, and a paraeducator. That model has professionalized the interventionist role, so we don't have interventionists. So what that means is, because we have the professional level staff, we don't have that quote unquote lower level staff. We all know interventionists and paras are you cannot describe the work they do. They are so important. I'm sorry, I'm stumbling over my words. My 1-year-old has hijacked sleep recently, so little foggy. But so we have professionalized that, so we don't have interventionists. But like Kristen said, we have some pretty good data around what our classroom models consistently look like. There has been a decrease in enrollment this year in Chamberlain 2, and that is directly impacted by their move from Orchard to Chamberlain and how that impacted families. But our data shows we stay pretty consistent. With that data in mind, what we would need moving forward for interventionist support in the preschool classrooms, thinking about in reorganizing our model, we're looking at a minimum of 6 interventionists that aren't currently in the budget. The 3 interventionist positions for kindergarten that were put in the budget on January 8th were listed as a net increase of $208,238. So by doubling that, we would be looking at $416,566. Whereas cutting the 2 classroom teacher positions is a net savings of $167,000. That was what was put in the budget presentation. So a question my team has, and the classroom team that I work with, is would you consider looking at the numbers? We know like the board has approved the percentage increase and the budget as is, but as we heard with athletics tonight, there is wiggle room within that budget of what is cut and what is not. Because keeping the classroom teachers would actually be a savings of almost $250,000, would you consider putting that back in the budget? Especially looking at if the first round doesn't pass and you're looking at redoing the budget in general.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
so I
you so
know
much
it's
for
not,
responding to that.
I know it's probably not a clear cut answer, but one that I
Yeah.
feel like
Yeah.
needed to be asked.
And even too, sorry, just to add, even like conservatively, like if you said three, like we all agree. Admin, you guys, there will be a need for interventionists. So like a conservative number, like, would you consider that? Yeah, the budgeting of it.
So thank you for your questions. I wanted to start by saying thank you for just saying what you did about, you know, your passion and love for our students in district. And you know, we certainly feel the same way and are glad to have you here. The board meeting setting is not one where we would negotiate any kind of, this isn't the appropriate venue to have detailed conversation. The team of our 5 administrators who brought this decision forward to me has had no discussion about what you've talked about. So I have the numbers you've shared are not numbers that the district is familiar with or acknowledges. You know, I know you've had a lot of meetings with the pre-K director, with our special ed director, and with the principals who have evaluated this model change, who have, you know, in their model reported the cost savings. Again, you pointed out the staffing. We have, I shared the information earlier. You know, we have 4 and 5 teachers to support 12 or 15 students. We know the ratio is 1 to 10. And for students who have, needs outside of that, it's greater. So that's the information that's been evaluated. I do know that there's ongoing meetings with you all to answer your questions, and I think the team has done, a good job of making sure to communicate with you. I've seen a ton of communication between the pre-K staff and various administrators pretty much daily. So I would say, and I have a meeting set up as well. So I want to reiterate that, the district is in compliance. There is, no information that has been presented to suggest the numbers that, I don't know where those numbers came from that you discussed, and that, this information will continue to be supported outside of board meetings. But I certainly, as superintendent, am not, it wouldn't be appropriate for me to sit at a board meeting and negotiate positions. I will say too, the union, so when you asked about, is there flexibility? So the way the district is responsible to our union members, the union will hold the district responsible for the positions that we have discussed in the budget, whether it's additions or reductions of members of the SBEA, the SB, and the Educational Professionals Union. So the district can't negotiate outside of that. And when we are responsible for sharing RIF information with the union, they will compare it against what we've shared. So we don't have the ability to deviate from what has been shared publicly. So there is no, we can't modify what we have communicated publicly regarding unionized positions.
That's helpful information to have. Thank you. And by no means am I trying to negotiate in a board meeting. It was more so just trying to ask the question really directly. And the numbers I pulled were all from board slides. They were not something I just made up. And the number of interventionists that we framed of 6 is based on the data that we have of students, as well as both historical and projected. So
I know it's in a conversation that we had with Beth.
Yeah.
Just, I can see where the breakdown in communication is here. It feels like from your experience and knowing what you're looking at, you're ahead of already figuring out what your next year is gonna look like. And I feel like at this budget level discussion, that's those decisions haven't been made. A good translation of what's happening here,
Not sure exactly what you're, I'm not sure I understand. What I can say is that there has been a significant amount of attention put toward supporting questions and comments from the pre-K team, and the administrative team, 5 administrators who evaluated enrollment and requirements, brought forward this recommendation with strong confidence. They know, as I support, we want to work, the teams are going to work collaboratively together to determine what that looks like. And those are in ongoing meetings that are already happening and not at this table. And that's what I'm trying to just be clear about.
I think what I heard was we're restructuring and there's meetings, like these decisions have yet to be made in terms of like how the actual job duties are gonna be broken out, and that's just not with budget.
I think it was more about budget. So looking at the Alex DeZenzo, South Burlington. Sorry, before I even jump into that, I just want to like publicly say thank you to Violet and Tim for coming to our staff meeting. I think like having that presence there was really important. And I emailed Violet for a meeting and she responded within 24 hours and we have something on the book. So I've been, critical of leadership, and I also want to give like kudos where kudos is due. I really appreciate it on both of you and the follow-up. I think budget-wise, the question that we have is you took out teachers and it's very clear that interventionists will need to be hired. Whether why was that not reflected in the budget when we have students from this year who are coming in and staying? So we have data that supports that hiring. Why was that not reflected in this current budget? That I think is the budget question.
Yes, so I'll try to address this really succinctly. And again, thank you. Like, we want to work collaboratively, and I hope that that's.
Yes.
I think what I see is a disagreement from what you all are presenting, and the team of administrators who presented this does not see it that way. So I'm understanding you're saying this is the need.
Yeah.
And there isn't that agreement, based on the staffing that is there and the ratios that are required. I very much hear and understand your points. However, that is not the information, that's not the agreement of everyone who is looking at this and evaluating enrollments and regulations. So I really hear you when you're saying, I'm adding up numbers of what interventionists cost. The team of folks who evaluated enrollment and student needs do not agree that there would be a lack of compliance or a need for 6 interventionists. Based on enrollment, student needs, IEPs, and the regulations. And that's what I'm trying to say. Again, I want to be really clear. We want to work together with you. I know there's ongoing meetings set up, and we want you to be a part of this, these ongoing discussions. Again, the other thing about, incoming students is we don't have all the information on who's going to be in our programs next year. So these are conversations we're going to continue to have. We're always going to meet, we said this the other day at the staff meeting, and we're always going to meet the needs of students and IEPs. We have that legal requirement. So that's the best I can provide at this time.
Cool. Yeah, I would just, if you could, like, as people in power here, like, ask our administrators and hold them accountable for that information, it would be helpful. One of my questions is, so this school year, we added a preschool director position. As soon as it was done, I turned to my coworkers and said, wow, I'm really excited for preschool. If I'm a taxpayer in the district, I'm upset. If I'm a staff member who was cut, I'm upset. How is that position funded, and is there flexibility? So I heard days were reduced and that money is being applied elsewhere as a cost savings to the district. How is that position funded, and is there flexibility to reallocate that to more student-facing opportunities?
Yeah, great questions. Grant funding is something that's really up in the air right now, as you know. Idea B funds a broad variety of really critical support set for our entire district. We have bus drivers in this funding source. We have our homeschool clinicians, Howard Center clinicians are in this funding source to the tune of $500,000 and beyond. We have bus monitors. We have a ton of really critical staff in this grant, and we do not have the assurance from the federal government or the Vermont Agency of Education that this is going to continue to be a viable and consistent funding source. So we are very much having to look at evaluating the admin team. We're meeting twice this week where we're talking about grant funded positions and, you know, how that is gonna, you know, what is gonna happen should these change. The Vermont Agency of Education has been really clear with us that we can expect shrinkage in likely all of our title funds as well. We know that we have DEI grants drying up and we have rolled those critical positions funded through grants previously into the fiscal year 26 budget. All grants have pretty clear parameters on what they can fund. We do know that the heavy leverage on IDIB needs to be addressed. And if there are position changes, we're going to look at the positions that support students most directly, and we're going to make sure that we're in compliance in doing so.
Great, yeah, I think our team is, when I think about like COVID, the word essential, what is an essential position? As much as it's nice to have someone as a liaison to our program, I look at the position and I don't think that is essential in the budget situation that we're in. I think making sure our classrooms are staffed, whether that's interventionists or teachers, to me is a priority. As a staff member, I like having someone, but if I'm a family and a, you know, a student who needs that support, that's something I'm hoping you all can think about and we can have like ongoing conversations about that.
The feedback has been noted, registered.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and the other thing I just wanted to add too was our preschool team absorbed a lot of that job. And so when I opened the Brick Marcotte classroom, I worked with licensing, our classroom teachers do stars. So a lot of that position, granted, Kristen Romick and Joanne Godek have a role in that as well, which they do because they meet more frequently with Beth than they ever, you know, met directly with us. And we also absorb that. So I think our team is standing here saying like, we will absorb more, we will, you know, take on more for the district and our team, if that means having the capacity to support students.
I appreciate that. I've worked with, I had the privilege of working with a lot of really excellent pre-K teachers. You all are no exception to that. When I was the curriculum director, there were too many hats there. I was at Addison Northwest, and I was the director of learning and technology, which was terrifying because the whole technical piece, you know, having this ed background. One of my greatest joys in that role was working directly with our pre-K program, and our pre-K teacher, who you probably know because it's a small educational community, she served as a classroom teacher for all sections, and she's also the director of the program. It's a model we see at a lot of places in the state, and I think it works really effectively. I have good knowledge of that. How that works and appreciate that feedback.
Thank you. I also just want to add last minute. I know it seems like we're really squeaky wheels, and I just want to put out one, yes. And two, our families can't be here. They're putting their kids to bed. Our kids can't be here. They're asleep. So we feel like it is our responsibility to keep showing up to advocate for our students. So thank you for recognizing that we feel like this is our responsibility as their advocates and teachers, that we need to try to support them in any way we can.
And our team is fortunate too, like we in the riffing process, a lot of us have seniority and will bump other classroom teachers out. We have dual endorsements. So I'm not even sitting here asking for my job. I will have a job. I'm just, here advocating for our students and our families and our program and our, you know, our district. So thank you all.
And to that end, you know, I appreciate the collaboration and I would note that, you know, it's not, we are advocating for the same thing for all kids and that we are not sitting on different sides of the table here. And I really don't want this to feel like it's a must press at board meetings. I mean, the real work is going to get done in collaborating together in meetings, which won't be right here, right? This structure simply prohibits that collaboration and dialogue. So I'll reiterate again, you know, we are on the same team for all of our kids. You know, it's not, I don't want you to feel that it's necessary to come to a board meeting to have that level of collaboration, because again, we're constrained in doing so in this room, but have a greater ability to do that together as a team. So I thank you all and I appreciate your time too, being here away from your families. And obviously, I know you're tired. It's, we've all been working since 7 a.m. So, thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
And, Alex, I'm see you Tuesday and whoever else wants to
Yeah,
talk.
no, I appreciate it.
Where are we meeting?
I was,
You were there.
we were gonna hop in the car and drive over after the kids get on the
All
bus,
right.
so we can meet in.
Very good. You
Thank
can come
you.
to my office and see my pre-K photos and my hanging on my walls.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Okay, any questions online?
With, I know we're 41 minutes over this issue, but I wanted to set out for a comment for 1 minute.
I think we're doing very well, considering everything that we covered.
Yeah, I appreciate having the opportunity to engage in this. Thanks for allowing it.
Yeah, I was sick in bed listening to our meeting last week. They did a wonderful job sharing. And I don't know how we have more meetings, but like special meetings or information sessions, Q&As like this, but I feel like this is the piece that we've been missing. So
I think that it's really, board meetings are what this is not a board meeting. This is a community forum. And what I would say to the board is have the community forums, have the public engagements. We have donuts and discussions, have the listening sessions, have the regular engagements that aren't the board meetings, because this is not a board meeting. As you just heard me say, we have a governance model, which is really clear about what business is discussed. We have open meeting law and, we have parameters about public comment when we can and can't engage. And we can't make our board meetings be our engagement opportunities. And I feel like we got to the place we are now because we haven't had those robust engagement opportunities, but this is really a community forum and not a board meeting. Again, with public comment, that is not, an appropriate time for the Q&A. So that's my, I totally agree. I think we need that engagement and outside of these meetings. And I know you all are committed to doing that as well. And Laura's been offering listening sessions and you all have supported donuts and discussion, and I greatly appreciate that. And I think, I want to acknowledge that you all are really committed to doing those engagement opportunities. I don't mean to say, this isn't the time, but this venue is obviously meant to be the business meeting and not that forum. So, I really wish we did have RETN here tonight, but I will share that, thank you to Nick for, recording this, and we will put it on our website, share it out. So
I don't know if anybody online has, I don't see any raised hands.
I'd just like to say, since we've had, I know this is my last reading, but I'm also going to say that, since there seems to be the sense that coming here to talk about Honors American is the thing to do. And it has now happened at 3 meetings, that it's really time for the high school administration to create a public forum where those comments can be heard appropriately in an appropriate forum where someone can actually act on them.
I agree with you, Karen. I talked to acting principal John Craig this morning, and he and his team are working on solidifying a date, and they're going to share that information out. So appreciate that, and that is in the works. We'll share that as soon as possible. John Craig, are you still on?
Yep, still here.
Did you hear that? I just want to make sure. Did you hear that comment regarding Honors American?
Yep. And we're working on figuring out that date, and we'll be making sure that's widely known when it is. And there'll be a good group of folks there from the high school there to answer questions and concerns.
Thank you so much.
Also, more than willing to continue kind of answering questions via email or phone calls leading up to it as well.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Please face that this is your last meeting, and I respect your decision, and I'll be very sad. So thank you for all of the work that you've done in your short time. I hope you'll continue to reach out and support with your wonderful.
And I just have to say, I'm a little upset here because your last meeting, you prepared this whole thing like this, and then you leave us. And I'm just a little upset. I'm just gonna
I mean,
share.
there's always, you know, for the folks at home who enjoyed the conversation, write-ins are an option.
You liked this community forum.
Yeah. Karen, I have to say too, a special thank you. The board had been advertising for the vacancy that you filled for some time. And when you came to do your interview, you said, you know, I'd been watching this and I felt it was really time for me to step up and fill it. And you came in at an arguably the most difficult possible time that you could come, right at the very end of a difficult budget season where we've had to make cuts across the board that no one is happy about. However, the alternatives, as you've heard many folks say tonight, are quite bleak and worse. Budgets don't go up when there are defeats. And I just really want to thank you for hanging in there on a lot of tough meetings, having hard conversations, honestly, working with constituents. I just appreciated our time together and want to recognize, you know, the tough criticism that you face stepping onto this board. When a board member comes to the table, they instantly own all of the work, past, present, future. And it isn't always easy, but the amount of time that you board members give is absolutely, so thank you. Reach out, we're here.
I'm happy to, I'm happy to continue to help in terms of, you know, experience with public meetings. I just feel like, you know, as everyone says, for personal reasons. For personal reasons, I did not collect the signatures.
Understood. And I understand and respect that. And I also appreciate it. So thank you so much.
And thank you for having me.
Our pleasure.
You know, I didn't necessarily want to be chair, but I feel like it was fair to ask everyone else to do it last year. And this year I just tried to clean things up, tighten up our governance, try to make things more clear. And we win as a team and we lose as a team, and you have offered such helpful feedback. And I am gonna take it forward, and if you continue to offer feedback, it's very welcome. Although, the chair did look pretty good on Tim last year.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
trying not to
that's
mess up,
true.
that's all.
You know, it's a really challenging role.
It is.
I've worked, you know, closely with board chairs, and it's a very challenging role, and I kudos, it really is, and I think, you know, the amount of, you know, the command of Robert's Rules of Order and open meeting law and our policies is significant and often under intense pressure and public scrutiny, and, you know, the need to make air traffic controller like decisions constantly when you two are just people who care about our community and our schools. So it's my, you know, I have to say, I always thought I'd be a board member. You all are better than me because I don't think I could do it knowing what I do. So truly, I have a deep respect for each of you.
Every time I think, okay, now's my time, I can step down.
Oh.
No, just kidding.
It is
A little
true
bit
love
longer.
That's not happening.
All right, any further discussion? Tracy, how you doing over there? Good.
We should wrap. My first meeting is at 4:30 tomorrow morning for it's a weather related call. Speaking of, I don't know if there's snow or ice or what falling. I hope everyone has a safe drive home.
Oh, wait, I have the snow day app.
Oh, let's hear it.
We have to consult the snow day.
For anyone watching, this is not an official snow day discussion.
It says there's a 49% chance of a snow day in our zip code.
Are you gonna give the caveat that this is not accurate? It's not a source.
It's not accurate.
This is not valid data.
It's almost always
Everyone's at home
wrong.
doing snow dances now, which is also not proven to impact
49%.
weather.
Although I will say I often get from one of the girls, hey, can you talk with Violet?
Oh my God.
It happens in my house too now.
We want a snow day.
Now, if anyone thinks budget is contentious, you should hear the feedback on any weather
On snow
related
days.
call.
Yeah. We'll be thinking of you tomorrow morning.
I won't, I'll be asleep.
Oh, yeah.
I'll wait for that 6 a.m. call.
You'll never hear me bright and cheery. What were you on? No, we don't know.
No
We have
promises.
to evaluate the information. We're gonna look at the data.
We need a motion to adjourn.
Yes, we do.
I move that we adjourn.
We adjourn the special meeting of the school board.
I'm the second.
Karen
Since
seconds.
I'm last person standing there.
Yes, is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes and we adjourn at 8:59.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.